double bind I found myself caught in. Between my love of high modernism as represented in literature by Henry James, to me, my favorite high modernist writer, and H.G. Wells, his friend, one of my favorite science fiction writers. These guys are both kind of responsible for the creation of 20th century literary genres, at least the ones that fascinate me. And it turned out, I discovered that they were best friends for a period of about 5 years around the turn of the century. And they corresponded, read each other's work, helped each other's work. And I even discovered in this particular book, which is now out of print, a collection of their letters, a record of the friendship and debate on the art of fiction and their quarrel, that James offered to collaborate on War of the Worlds with Wells, and particularly wanted to write scenes on Mars. So this moment where James might have written a book about Mars helped me realize that what I wanted to do in my own writing might be possible, and not that I'm as good as James, but that someone with my background, and I studied James and Melville, and someone like that does have a chance of writing about Mars, even though I wrote about Venus. Yeah, so what happened was they had this terrible quarrel. Basically, Wells got sick of James as his style got more and more convoluted and complex and less directed towards a popular market. Wells figured that there was something immoral about this, that art should not separate itself from the people, that it shouldn't be in a kind of white cube away from culture. And James himself didn't give a damn. He created this ivory tower, you know, and wrote his works for a few writers that loved them and that would be influenced by him, like people like Gertrude Stein, Joyce, T.S. Eliot, who took the tradition of modernist, complex prose, writing for a small audience and worked in that direction. Whereas Wells began to write more and more successful popular fiction based on ideas of technology and politics, things that had to do with the immediate world, and he hoped to have an impact among the people. And he kind of attacked James publicly, and they broke up as friends. And this wonderful collection documents all of that. So my writing that I'm going to start to review, I think, falls in this kind of divide. I always seem to go back and have some problem with contemporary art in its easy seclusion from the rest of the world. And I always valorize, to some extent, popular literature as attempting to communicate and affect the world on a more, you could say, real level. First thing I ever published was a text in an art newspaper published in the, I think it was '92, by two Russian dissident artists who were very big then, named Komar and Melavid. But they've kind of fallen out of fashion. They were really big in the 80s, and this was before the wall came down. And these guys were dissident Soviets who had come to America and did large Soviet realist paintings mocking Stalin and mocking Lenin and things like that. And they published a small newspaper called Spark. It's the same name as the newspaper Lenin printed at the beginning of the revolution. And they invited me. I was actually working as their plumber at the time, and I heard them having a discussion in the next room, like, we need writers for this communist magazine, where are we going to find them? And they didn't know I went to Yale and stuff. My friend hired me for the conversation. I'm really terrible at plumbing. But I appeared out of the boiler room with a wrench in my hand, and I said, I'm a writer, I'll write for you. And that's how I got my, and they just thought it was like some kind of avatar of Lenin himself had appeared with a wrench in his hand. But, you know, I don't publish so much art criticism anymore, and I found places that allowed me to do the kind of work I did, and my first published work will show you why some people might have some resistance. This is towards the end. I'm just going to read you a little piece of it. It's called The Next Revolution and the Great Two-Faced American. Perhaps the greatest revolution on the path to modernism was best condensed by William Blake. The Blakean concept of opposites, of innocence and experience, heaven and hell as equal parts of systems that can only be grasped by immersion in both, is not an end in itself. A critic might call it so, but never an artist. The end of art is never an idea. Were it so, art would not exist, and we'd all be reading